Hey horror fans, welcome back to Terror Talk, where I discuss creepy clips online. All the horror music you hear is composed by me. If you want my top 5 horror movie recommendations and exclusive reviews, check the pinned comment after watching. Plus, I've got a free gift to inspire your creepy imagination. Now, let's have some fun.
Sometime last year, I was holed up in my house for a whole day and night. My city had a huge storm come through that put everyone on lockdown inside for almost an entire 24 hours. Houses and roads were flooding, and on the news, there were even reports of wind damaging windows and ripping roof panels off of homes. I was alone at the time.
Dang, that sounds pretty intense. Have you ever been in a storm like that? Let me know in the comments below. For me, I haven't really. I mean, I've had the power go out, obviously, at times, and I absolutely hate it. But I've never had anything quite that intense. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you've ever been in lockdown for 24 hours or more because of a storm. That's crazy.
Spending the day on my phone, keeping up with the news, and just listening to the chaos going on outside. Around 5 or 6, the power started flickering, turning off for just a few moments, then turning back on. Then, maybe just an hour after this had started, the power fully shut off. I waited for a few minutes, expecting it to come back on, but after a while, I realized it probably wasn't going to come back until after the storm was over. I sat on the couch and started scrolling through the news again on my phone for any updates, until there was a heavy knock on the front door. It scared me, being so loud in the midst of such a crazy storm, but also because I was not expecting anyone to be outside in this weather. I stayed where I was for a minute, debating whether to even see who it was. But then the thought rolled through my mind that maybe it was just a neighbor needing help, or...
Yeah, already, I'm thinking like, what the hell? Why is there someone outside the door in such bad weather? And I always say, if you get a knock on your door super late at night, or in really strange conditions like this, that is not good, and your guard should automatically be up.
or wanting to ask if my power was out too. It was still absurd for anyone to be outside, but I went up to the door and looked out the peephole. Nobody was there. Perhaps I'd waited too long to check, but looking out, a really unnerving feeling came over me. I went back to the living room and opened a window, letting the minimal amount of light in from outside. I didn't have any way to charge my phone, and I didn't have a flashlight, so I kind of just sat there and stared out the window. Then, out of the blue, I swear I heard a voice outside. I swung my head around behind me, looking toward where I thought I'd heard it from, but of course, I couldn't hear it anymore. I waited again, but figured it had to have just been the wind making strange noises, so I turned back around. Almost right on cue, though, I heard it again. Just a quick few words, like someone was talking to someone else. I got up and went to a nearby window, looking out. It was so dark and rainy, there was nothing really for me to see.
Dang, that would be like so unnerving, wouldn't it? To hear that voice outside the window in a storm like that. Like, what the hell? That is so creepy.
Still, I stared out into the rain, and a sudden flicker of lightning lit up the area for a second. And in that second, I made out a figure not far from my house. I had no way to know what he was doing, or really anything at all. I just saw a figure for a split second, and now that it was dark again, I couldn't see anything. Getting more unnerved, I closed up the windows and decided to go upstairs to the bedroom. Despite this, I was still nervous about the knocking and the guy I saw standing out in the middle of such a brutal storm. It was hard not to wonder what they were doing or who they were talking to. Hours went by with nothing more happening, just the sounds of the storm outside as I sat in the room. Then, just when I had started to forget about it all, a sudden sound faintly echoed from downstairs. It was a door opening. I could feel my face go pale as I tried to listen, but it almost felt like the storm had grown louder, and I knew there would be no way I could hear any footsteps at all. I just had to sit there in my own thoughts and wait, horrified in the small, barely lit bedroom. A minute passed, and then another, and eventually I got the courage to call 911, though I knew it'd be a long time for them to arrive. From the time I heard the door open to the time the police showed up, it had been over 30 minutes, and yet there were no other sounds, and nobody ever came up to the room I was in. All the cops found was an open front door and wet shoe prints inside the house. There were no indications of any intent after entering my home. It almost seemed like they broke in, looked around for a minute, then just left.
This whole situation would just be so unsettling, wouldn't it? I mean, one, you're trapped in your own house because of a raging storm that never seems to want to end. And then you think you have someone that just broke in, and you're anxiously waiting upstairs for the police to get there, thinking that someone might come up to your room. An intruder. And that just sounds terrible. It just sounds absolutely like a terrible, horrible situation.
To this day, there's been no answers to the events of that night.
Yeah, that is an absolutely terrible situation to be in. And I feel really sorry for that person because, just, I can't imagine not having power for even more than an hour. And honestly, the longest I've gone without power is maybe an hour or two. But for 12 hours or more, dang, that would be terrible. And to think that someone is trying to break into your home on top of that is a really shitty situation. But yeah, this was definitely a creepy story, and I hope that you enjoyed my commentary and music. And be sure to check out my top 5 horror movie recommendations. I think you'll really like them. And I will see you in the next video.